Hello, welcome back to LIVENODING. This episode, I want to talk about this topic. It's kind of simple, but it's kind of confusing if you are using geometry nodes. So let's say you have like you want to create random value, and you want to convert that value into string, into curve, some kind of viewer, right? So it's supposed to be really simple. You might be guessing, okay, geometry nodes, and you're just gonna use random value, and you want to use value to string, and when you string to curve. So let's say you just want to have grid with random value using geometry nodes. If you try to do this, it's actually gonna refuse, even though this is quite logical. First of all, the value to string itself, even though it's working, I mean, you can put value like a number, a single number, it doesn't really quite give you what you want, even though you just, let's say you just want a random value between 0 and 9 and you want to put it in a grid. Very simple, right? But it doesn't work just like that. It's a little bit different to SVerchok. This random value does not factorize itself. First of all, you need to use some kind of instancing, and you need to somewhat convert a value from that points into string and curve. Okay, so this Blender Stack Exchange, actually there's a few answers. I think the first one that's actually working is this one, although it's a little bit complicated. It's called visualizer, and you can actually visualize a value, for example, like position of vector, and then visualize it as string, but it's not very simple. If we are to do this using SVerchok is actually does it quite well. We need to use typography viewer, but let's say I have like a grid or like a vector points in random positions, and I just need to have some kind of text. The text is going to be random number. SVerchok has that nodes, and if we put it in, okay, let's say we want 100, and we have random points, and we just scatter it. So we can do that quite easily. In fact, let's simplify this vector. Let's just use grid, plane, use this as position, random number, let's make the grid 10 by 10. So this is going to be 100 numbers, and the numbers can be anything from 0 to 999, for example. So that's working, except that of course when we have like 0 and 1, and we need to consider that. But anyhow, it's working, and it's quite simple to do. With geometry nodes, one of the solutions to scatter random number between 0 and 9, one trick is to simply use instancing. So apparently string to curve itself is quite special. So you can actually put a digit like this, and you use plain grid. Okay, so you can scatter random number. They're not very random at the moment. You might be thinking, okay, you might want to use string and then slice this digit, but you don't need to do that if you turn on peak instance once you turn that on, it will actually pick one of the number, and then if you reduce this character spacing to 0, it will actually pick those numbers. So that's one. This is one of the trick to do this. So in this case, you can use random value between 0 and 9 because we have 10 digit. It's going to be integer. Plug this into the instance index. Now we're actually able to scatter this. Now if you want to have 10 by 40, for example, in fact any number, now we can fill the curve and we can extrude. Maybe we can also random value and extrude randomly. Turn off individual. And I have a feeling there might be some kind of bugs here where even if I'm using n-gon and turn off individual, we are still getting this issue. It could be a bug with geometry nodes, but anyhow we got this sort of working. So we got random digit, and this only works if you want a single digit random value. If you want multiple digit, like 0 to 100, you need different way to do this. But this is more like kind of like a hack, but it's still kind of working, and you can put A, B, C, or Blender here. Maybe center everything as well. Okay, we have to put it midpoint, middle, center. Still, we seems to have some kind of gap. So at least it's sort of working, the idea. So if you want to have just random value, you can set it up like this. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9. And if you set material and use random hue, you then have these random single digit numbers on the sphere. Okay, but like I said, this is like it should be simpler, but the way geometry nodes work is gonna be a little bit slightly tricky. So you need to use some kind of visualizer if you ever want to visualize text. And so there is no built-in visualized numeric attributes in 3D view. And then so this Blender artist made it. You can buy it for $5. Yeah, still kind of expensive. So, but if you really want it, like I said, you can just use SVerchok. I think SVerchok is really powerful for that. So string in SVerchok, text viewer. Oh, texture viewer. Oh, this one we need to use typography viewer, and we can use sphere, for example, or icosphere. Let's try. That's gonna be random number. let's say between 0 and 50. Maybe list length, get the number of vertices, plug this into the size, so we get the correct number. To get the normal, I think we can do it this way. One thing that you might be able to use, also you can send some kind of arbitrary value from SVerchok if you really want to. If you have a bunch of points and you know the value for each points, you can actually set attributes, like a custom attribute. Yeah, you can actually use name attributes and then just send it into geometry nodes and then transfer the value, and then you can use it inside geometry nodes. Slightly, slightly tricky, but I think that's just the way it is. So yeah, I just want to point this to you because in SVerchok you can do it quite easily. The logic is simple, but if you want to do it using geometry nodes, you might need to use this setup, something like this. So you have 2-digit and you want to randomize the value, and yeah, this is one way to do it. It's quite clever. It's more like a hack, but this actually works. And if you are using geometry nodes, that's one way to do it. If you want to have random value, if you want to have value that's actually custom and it needs to be precise at that point, then you need to probably use the setup right here from Ilirberg. What's his name? Yeah, Ilirberg. Yeah, because you're kind of using like a field, and with geometry nodes, everything is like almost like real time. Different logic to SVerchok, but it's just a lot easier when using SVerchok, I think. So there you go. Hopefully you find this useful. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.